Our next speaker is Kate Haines. Kate is the IWBC archivist and digital content producer and is currently serving as an IWBC board member. Kate is an information resources senior supervisor at the University of Michigan Libraries. Kate is presenting Shirley Burkovich, pioneer, activist, and trailblazer. Take it away, Kate.
Let's see if I can get through this without breaking down, so bear with me, guys. On March 31st, 2022, Shirley Berkovich passed away unexpectedly. Shirley was the second player from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League I ever met, and I had worked with her for almost a decade in various capacities, most recently in our work with the International Women's Baseball Center. While a pandemic had kept us apart for a few years, I always was happy to hear the work she was doing and anxious to see her again at a women's baseball activity. Actually, I had hoped that I would see her in July of 2022, and the thought that we got so close just broke my heart a little. There was a good deal of time that I couldn't even process that she was gone, and I knew so many from my baseball family that were going through the same thing. As we continued to work through this grief and try to move forward, especially in the IWBC community, there was a constant conversation on how we would best honor such a pillar in our work. Of course, as a researcher, the thought that kept hitting my brain was to honor her through the memories that she left behind, and the Women in Baseball Conference seemed to be the perfect opportunity to do just that. Just a few weeks before Shirley's passing, the call for papers had gone out, and it introduced a perfect opportunity for the type of work to properly honor Shirley. The prompt was simple: Title IX in women's baseball, where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. And I knew that Shirley encapsulated all of those things. Shirley Berkovich was the perfect example of women's baseball as a pioneer, trailblazer, and activist. She dedicated much of her time in life to making sure the love of the game she felt could be properly celebrated and felt by other girls and women. Gone too soon, Shirley encapsulated where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed, and that should be recognized, celebrated, and remembered as the movement surges ahead. From playing within the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League to speaking about her experiences and advocating for the International Women's Baseball Center, Shirley captured the true meaning of the game and the love that she held for it. And that lives within the memories of others. Looking at the work she left behind and the memories she left others that ignited their own passion, Birkovich witnessed many women's baseball milestones, and work will be continued in her name with her passion. Shirley Burkovich was born in Swissvale, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Pittsburgh, in 1933, to a baseball family, and would be a lifelong Pirates fan, regardless of the other places she would live throughout her life. She grew up playing baseball with the boys of her neighborhood and was one of several women in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League that didn't play softball before the league. Shirley joined the AAG-PBL for the 1949 season after her brother convinced her to attend a Pittsburgh tryout. She would play for 3 seasons on several teams as a utility player and earn the nickname Hustle. Birkovich moved on to work at Pacific Bell after her time with professional baseball. She retired in 1983 and spent much of the rest of her life supporting and advocating for girls and women to play baseball, both through the AAG-PBL Players Association and as one of the founders of the International Women's Baseball Center. She spent this time coaching, educating, and appearing whenever she could to show her support. Due to the work she did, she left many memories with many people and showed her passion for the work many of her friends are dedicated to continuing. Like so many women who played professional baseball during the AAG-PBL, Shirley admitted that she didn't understand that the league was anything special while she was playing. Still, as time went on, she went on to understand that this opportunity to play baseball allowed her opportunities of growth. As the realizations came to light, attention to the league expanded, and time allowed, Shirley dedicated herself to fighting for similar rights for other girls and women, wanting everyone to have the opportunity for similar experiences that she had. Her standing with the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League Players Association and the International Women's Baseball Center allowed her to sit on panels, attend Major League Baseball fan fests, coach at clinics, make appearances at tournaments, and give interviews while interacting with people across the country and sharing her love of baseball. She participated in events with Sports Educators of America, Baseball for All, Major League Baseball, the Colorado Silver Bullets, and the Women's Baseball World Cup, while also making appearances at local locations like the Pasadena Public Library and school speaking engagements. Her passion and dedication to helping others even led to working fundraisers that supported kids and senior citizens. All of this work, Shirley's dedication to people and her want to make a difference, especially when it came to the world of baseball, led to a myriad of memories and a dedication from her loved ones to continue her work. As you can see by the recent announcement of the Hustle Award in her memory, the people that recognized and appreciated the work that Shirley Berkovich put forth in the world wanted to honor others that approach their passion for baseball in the same way. To honor her memory properly, I also felt that there was an important aspect in remembering how others saw her, which led me to the work I did for this project. I was introduced to the idea of learning history through memory during a stint in Ukraine in 2013. The idea was to learn the history of the area by what the people decided to memorialize. This, of course, could be problematic when it came to a war-torn country like Ukraine, but it taught about the lasting impact of events that could then be checked against other facts of the past to see where it truly sat in the narrative. This concept, I felt, could then be applied to the memory of an individual to see how their time and their experiences influence others to continue down the paths they created. This is important to connect how one person or one experience can influence so much more. With the instance of Shirley Berkovich, there are so many people that interacted and were influenced by her that her memory carries on the legacy and the work she could not finish in her time. It connects people globally who may never meet and often gives them similar goals that can be worked on in tandem with others, without ever having to have the interaction beyond the connection of Shirley herself. I gathered this information by seeking out others. For an entire month, I reached out through my own social media, the official pages of the IWBC and the SABR Women in Baseball channels, and I asked for something simple, a memory. These memories were collected with the simple question of how did you see Shirley? While I stated the idea in my presentation title, I was a little more vague in the survey, not trying to influence their responses too much. I was not always great about regularly sharing this survey, other than through scheduled posts, but it did get some traction. I knew sadly I would not get everyone that knew Shirley, but I also knew this would be okay. One of the main limitations of this information gathering was relying on online interactions and reaching out through other groups of people. While I know plenty of people that knew Shirley, I was aware there were so many others whose lives had been touched by this woman, and it was not likely that all of them would be able to access electronic materials easily. Over the time of this collection, I received 26 different responses to the survey. First glances indicated that others agreed with me about Shirley. Many felt that she encapsulated pioneer, activist, and trailblazer, while some only picked one to describe her. This was another weakness of the survey. It wasn't obvious that multiple choices could be made. Still, 58% of respondents marked all three descriptors, and 77% of them believed her to be a pioneer, if not more. Then, without fail, people shared those defining moments with me, keeping her work and memory present. One respondent actually had to email me outside of the survey to tell me their whole story, revealing that my survey apparently had a character limit. To my surprise, the memories shared weren't necessarily what defined Shirley as an activist, pioneer, or trailblazer. 65% of responses addressed Shirley's character first and foremost. Considering my own memories, I shouldn't have been surprised, but when I started this project, I had expected a different approach to responses. 17 responses narrowed in on the type of person Shirley was, and I think it's important to start there. The memories associated with Shirley called her a sweet, kind, humble, considerate, thoughtful, caring, quiet, authentic person. Some of these adjectives were in how she interacted with girls she was advocating for, and others just spoke to how Shirley interacted with the world around her. 3 responses on Shirley's character truly encapsulated what so many people hinted at. Response 16 stated there was a sweetness about her that drew people to her, but she was forged of fire and steel, and her commitment to helping girls and women find their own ways to the baseball diamond has made a huge impact on the game. Building on this, response 23 said she hits you in the heart and inspires you to do, to want, and to be more. While response 26 rounded it out with her personality could mesh with anyone, and her love of the game was apparent. Then, the responses built on her character on a more personal level. Some noticed how her smile never once dimmed, while others noted she had a New York stride that even a New Yorker couldn't keep up with. A few reflected on their own grief, wishing for more minutes, or indicating a precious saved voicemail. Some reflected on the grief of others, but all responses radiated with a love for a very special kind of woman. Following the content of her character, there were indicators toward the descriptive words I had been looking for, which you could also, on occasion, find in her bibliographic information. I chose pioneer, trailblazer, and activist as descriptors to coordinate with where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, the theme of this conference. Shirley Berkovich encapsulated where we've been by being a pioneer of women's baseball. She opened a new line of thought by joining her fellow ball players in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League and introducing the idea that women were good enough for a league of their own. Her place as a pioneer was furthered when the league was honored by the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1989, but Shirley was also included in lists of pioneers throughout her life. This was the collective memory she left. She also resonated with individuals. She remembered the people she met and showed how special baseball was in the events she attended. She had a desire to share, coach, and support others because she had achieved the dream of playing baseball, and that experience allowed her to be herself. Response 18 said so much when talking about advice Shirley had given them, stating, "I realized aim high was the best advice for everything I do." It may have been advice on throwing out a ceremonial first pitch, but like so many things Shirley did, it went far beyond that. Shirley Burkovich held up where we are by blazing paths to guide others as a trailblazer. Her work in support of others, especially in girls' baseball, inspired others in the fight and provided a role model to show it could be done. Some responses to the survey spoke to this. Responses 3, 10, and 12 spoke to the support Shirley gave by attending games, meeting players, sharing stories, and working towards her passion for women's baseball. Some felt that their response should be a call to action, feeling the best way to remember Shirley properly was for Major League Baseball to support the effort she spent decades advocating for. Then Response 9 spoke on Shirley's approach to wielding this power to guide others. They stated it was important to see someone quiet, focused on listening more than talking, who obviously was taking everything in and generating more ideas on goals and processes. Her quiet and gentle demeanor disguised inner qualities of passion and taking care of business. This response upheld the power Shirley brought with her guidance and spoke to the work she did along with it. Shirley Berkovich spoke to where we're going by being an activist and supporting girls and women in baseball. Support and showing up were a constant theme in responses regarding memories of Shirley. She spent decades doing both and advocated where she could through her work with the AAG-PBL's Players Association and her collaborative founding of the International Women's Baseball Center. During her decades of activism, she attended numerous tournaments, coached in clinics, and spoke on panels. Response 24 upheld this work by knowing the girls could always count on her. Response 22 furthered this by saying she was always encouraging female athletes to take charge and do what they wanted to do. Others stated how her approach uplifted multiple approaches to advocacy work and that her interest in the people she was supporting, the girls, also made her work more effective. Response 7, I believe, stated the frustration we all felt after several hard years ending with the loss of Shirley Berkovich. She was ready to get back out there and get back to supporting girls' baseball, damn it. Many that worked with her shared that sentiment and were trying to work with that same passion. One person even more determined to complete the work Shirley couldn't is her lifelong friend and partner in crime, Maybelle Blair. Maybelle and Shirley were an expected duo in most of these mentioned situations, and a brief ode to this friendship is needed in remembering Shirley. In fact, 27% of responses mentioned Maybelle while remembering Shirley. Some just mentioned how they worked together and made the fight for women's baseball in unison. One commented on how their personalities worked together in these situations. Response 22 shared her concern for Maybelle losing such a friend. While it has been hard for all of us to adjust, I can assure you, Maybelle is determined as ever to help reach some of Shirley's goals. This is why Shirley Berkovich represented this year's Women in Baseball Conference theme. Because of who she was as a person and because of the memories she left behind when she was gone. The memory of Shirley Berkovich matters because it matters to me. but her memory also matters to so many people in the task of bringing equality to the sport of baseball. It's the individual stories that often have the biggest impact, and Shirley Berkovich has that kind of story. Yes, the big milestones matter. Title IX, the AAGPBL, the 1992 film, the 2022 show, they all are big, and they matter by bringing more light to things. But it's because of a culmination of a million little stories like Shirley's that they get told, that they resonate, and that they start to change things. One of the things I learned about the AAGPBL players after the league is that they often ended up silencing their stories because people stopped believing them. This same type of story was shown in the 2022 show when Max Chapman believed she was the only Black woman playing baseball. Pioneering umpire Perry Barber shared a similar story of isolation. The thing is, these stories help build the stories that make impacts like Title IX. Then, opportunities created by things like Title IX lead to advocacy work like Baseball for All. Shirley Burkovich was a part of that whole story, and that, in and of itself, would make her a trailblazer, activist, and pioneer. But the memory that she left behind, it's the perfect showcasing of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. And her memory will continue to inspire the amazing work to make sure everyone in it is welcome in baseball.
All right, thank you, Kate. You did a good job getting through that. So open it up now for any questions for Kate. Please use the chat function. You can toggle that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. First question is, Kate, do you particularly have a Shirley moment that you want to share?
Oh, gosh. So there are a lot of memories of Shirley that I could share. I think that I'll give you two. So one of them is kind of baseball related, and I don't really see the other one as baseball related. So I first met Shirley at the 2013 AAGPBL Players Association reunion in Chicago, Illinois. And I had interacted with all of the women that I could meet there. It was the first time I'd met anybody beyond Maybell. And we had had a couple of conversations, you know, just kind of getting to know you stuff. And one of the big things that Shirley didn't have with her was a baseball card. And I was like, you know, that's fine, whatever. But I tell you, 3 days after I got home, there was a handwritten note with a signed baseball card. And I still have both of those things. And it just really, to me, solidified the type of person that Shirley was and how important she was going to be to me. The other would probably be, for those of you that know Shirley, you know that she was a devout Catholic. And, you know, a lot of her traveling took her away from church a lot of the time. And as I got closer and started attending more women in baseball events, helping her get to Saturday afternoon mass was actually one of my favorite things to do. And I'm not religious in any way, but I always like offered to go and sit with her if that's something that she wanted. But I always made sure that she had a plan to go. And some of those car rides are some of my favorite memories with her, of just kind of being able to talk and catch up during the craziness that are a lot of the events that we attended together.
That was really cool. That's a very unique memory there. Thank you for sharing that. Another question is, what do you think is the number one thing Shirley would want us to focus on now?
I think, you know, her last couple of years were, of course, focusing on the IWBC, but it was more the mission that the IWBC has, which was, again, continuing to advocate and make women's baseball more visible. You know, so she was always showing up to tournaments. She was always going and hearing the stories of girls and their experiences and trying to figure out how to make those experiences better. And then, you know, coming back to us if we weren't there and going, hey, maybe we should try this or maybe we should try that. And so it is that continued advocacy work of, girls and women play. Their stories and their experiences need to be heard, and that needs to be used to make the situation more equitable for everyone.
So I have a question about your project. Were there any responses or anything that came up in the course of doing this that surprised you?
I think the biggest surprise was the full email that I got. Now that shared a couple of different memories. I think that if I had been capable of reaching more people that had known Shirley, that were in a place with their grief at the time, I definitely started this just a few months after we lost her. So I do know that I didn't get responses from some people just because that's a lot. That maybe some things would have been more surprising. I was a little surprised by the number of different events that were named when going through the responses of all the different things that she did. Like, I knew Shirley was a very busy woman, but she proved to be way more busy than I had wrapped my head around.
That's cool. Next question here. Is this a project that you plan to continue?
Leslie, I feel like that's brought on from the question Marlene asked last night. So there wasn't really an idea to continue the project. Unfortunately, I don't get to research and work on this type of stuff as much as I would like to. It seems like there might be a want for it though, so maybe that is something that I could continue. And I'm actually going to be presenting a similar talk at the 9 Online conference in a couple of weeks.
Great. Okay, so one a little out of left field here. What do you think Shirley's reaction would be to learning that there's now a Hustle Award named for her?
I think that she would downplay it. I think that she would be very excited for something that is encapsulating what we hope for the award to really capture, but that she would kind of dismiss, it needing to have been named for her because that was the type of person she was. She loved doing the work and she didn't necessarily need credit for that.
Great. Is there anything else that you want us to know about Shirley or about your project?
Well, if Leslie and Marlene and them were gonna keep gentle encouraging me to continue it, as it apparently seems like it's going to be, anybody that may have a memory of Shirley, I'll drop the form into the chat here. You guys can fill it out, and we'll see if something else comes of it.